Today's video, I'm going to show you how to make that camera arm you see down there at the bottom. We use these whenever we film our own hunts. It makes it easier than having somebody there to film your hunts. This way with the camera arm you can do it yourself. You see there we use those little handy cams. They're not too heavy. This setup that I'm about to show you works really well with these handy cams, and cameras that aren't as heavy, you know, you have the couple $1,000 cameras that can get in the 4 or 5 pound range. These are about maybe a pound, so this setup works well. But what you're going to need is 41 inches of 1x1 aluminum tubing, square tubing, and 6 bolts. I think I have 8 nylon washers and 6 nuts, and that's pretty much all it is to it. This cost me about 30 bucks to buy these parts. You might even have some laying around your garage, but it's beats going out and spending a couple $100 for a camera arm when you can make this one yourself for only 30 bucks. So I'm going to get ahead and show you what to do and show you the process we take to make this camera arm. Right, so the first cut on this piece, this camera arm, is going to be 6 1/4 inches, and if I'll bring this in here, this is going to be this extension right here. You can see how that folds out. This is a piece we're going to be cutting, and that's 6 1/4 inches. So we're going to go ahead and cut that piece out. I'm just going to use a hacksaw, put it in the vise, cut it off, and I'll be right back to show you the cut piece. So I just want to show you here a real quick tip. Take your square off all your flat spaces on your square tubing. Don't just cut straight through. This allows for a nice cleaner level cut. It'll be straight. Just a quick tip. No, it's not very precise. We don't have to be precise when doing this, but if you just mark all your ends, use your square, cut your lines before going straight through the whole piece, it makes it come out a lot nicer. Okay, I got my first piece cut out. Now, see there's some rough edges, so I just come in with a file, clean up those edges. Once again, not necessary, but you don't want any sharp corners or edges to cut yourself, so I just come in with a file, clean that up a bit. So we're going to cut our next piece. I'll show you how long to cut it and we'll come back. Alright, so we cut our 6 1/4 piece. You can see up there on top. Next you want to measure from the what's remaining from the 6 1/4 you took off. The end of the 17. Measure from here, measure 17 inches, and just go ahead and cut 17 inches off now. Alright, we got our 6 1/4 inch piece cut. We got our 17 inch piece cut. Next, out of your total 41 inches of your aluminum tubing, you're going to want to cut 10 1/2 inches now. So I'll go ahead and cut that. And then just to save time, after the 10 1/2, you're going to have about 14 3/8 left of your 41 inches. So we're going to cut that in half, you know, roughly 7 1/4 for piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up my 10 1/2 and then my 2 7 1/4, and then I'll come back and show you what we're going to do next. Alright, so we got all of our pieces cut out. Once again, 6 1/4, 17 inches, 10 1/2, and then 2 roughly about 7 1/4. Next I'm going to hook up the drill press here. I'm going to use, I believe, a 5/16 bit to fit the bolts, but the first step, we're going to cut the 6 1/2 or the 6 1/4 part, which is this part, and we're going to drill centers for the bolt on that first. So I'm going to go ahead set up the drill press and go ahead and drill that out. Okay, so I marked my center. It's only 1 inch by 1 inch piece of square tubing, so I halved it, and I have a 5/16 bit. I'm going to go ahead and drill my hole. So there's the first one. Alright, so now I grabbed my 17 inch piece and I used the cut I just made, the hole I just made on my 6 1/4 piece. Just kind of laid it on top, marked my hole for the depth. I'm going to go ahead and drill my 17 inch piece now on the one end. Now I'll show you how it's going to play out here. I'll take this piece out and show you kind of what I'm shooting for. Alright, so there's the two holes I just cut out on the 6 1/4 and the 17-inch piece. And what I'm shooting for here is I'm going to take the bolt, thread it through the 6 1/4 piece. Then I'm going to put a nylon washer in between. I'm going to take that, run it through the 17-inch piece here, and just put a nut on the bottom. Now you can put another nut like a lock washer on the bottom or anything like that, but I'm just going to use this for now. And what that nylon washer does, it allows us, when you take that out, there's no metal on metal. It allows that to be a lot quieter than if that washer wouldn't be there. So I'm going ahead and do that, put the nut on, and then next I'm going to drill my 10.5-inch piece here. Drill here, and then the opposite end of my 17-inch piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll do it off camera, I won't bore you with it. I'll go ahead and drill that, and then I'll show you what I do next. Alright, so I got my holes drilled in my 6 1/4 piece, my 17-inch piece, and then the 10-inch piece here. You can kind of see what I'm going for, how these extend out. That's part of the camera arm itself. Now what I'm going to do next for more brace, actually what we use to brace this to the tree, is I'm going to drill 2 holes in this 10-inch piece, and then I'm going to put these braces behind it, and that's going to be used to brace against the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those holes. On this piece, you can see here, you know, just 2 holes. I'm sure there's no specific spacing, it's just more so to keep these braced. And then I'm going to drill 2 more holes on the bottom of those 7 1/4 pieces. Mainly, I'll show you what I do. That's what we use to tie or secure this camera arm to the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and drill 4 holes, 2 in the 10-inch and then 4 in the 7 1/4 pieces. So I'll do that off camera and come back and show you. Okay, now here we have it set up against the tree. I drilled all my holes. Now these under here, these are 5/8 inch holes, and you can see we use tie downs to tie them against the tree. And so all of a sudden it just folds out. You know, that's what it looks like extended. And now I will say, just dropped it here, one thing you will need is one of these pieces. This came with the tripod set I had, but all this is this goes right on this base, and that allows for your elevation for your camera to mount in. You know, it mounts right here, and you drill a hole for that on your 6 1/4 piece, tie that in, screw that down in. I usually just use a wing nut and a piece of all thread, and then that allows your elevation. So once again, here, fold them back up. Ties nicely into a backpack if you want to carry to a different location. One thing I did contemplate with, as you can see here, these brace pieces. I was going to get a piece of all thread and run them against this gap so they're both straight, but I found over the years that if you're hunting one spot, it's good. You don't need that piece to brace these, but like you see here, this tree, it's kind of wide, it's a big tree, and with these braces, they allow this piece to move when you're tying it down, and you allow a nice strong hold onto the tree. So I don't know, I contemplated with that, running a piece of all thread to keep it up, you know, both vertical, but depending on what you want, you can do that. But once again, I'll show you. It just folds right out. You know, you can film something's behind you, turn it that way, something's close there, and then I said that again, that piece that came with my mount that allows for your elevation, just go ahead and drill a hole for that, screw that down in, and you're good to go. Now I am going to paint this like my other one, and with this aluminum tubing, it is kind of smooth, so it's best to rough it up a bit with a Brillo pad or a piece of heavy grit sandpaper before you spray paint it. But that's it. That's the gist of it. Go ahead and make your own. Tell me what you think. Maybe if you have another design you're using. Like I said, it beats going out paying a couple $100 for it. I spent $30 on the square tubing and bolts, and I only got new bolts is because The ones I have in the garage are kind of old and rusty, and I don't feel like bothering with them much. But bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nuts, nylon washers, and 41 inches of aluminum tubing, and you're good to go. Like I said, 30 bucks compared to 300 for some camera arms. So give it a shot. Tell me what you think. Maybe you have a better design. Let me know. But that's it. Kind of dawned on me. I said about roughing up the spray paint. That's what I did on my last one. But I forgot that I had a can of Plasti Dip, and Plasti Dip's almost like a spray on plastic. So it's probably going to help reduce the noise. And you can see I didn't scuff it up at all. And it's going on pretty well. So I'm just going to let this dry. This first coat I'm going to let dry, and I'm going to add another layer of Plasti Dip and see how that comes out. It's going on all right. Like I said before, I scuffed up my other one because the spray paint wasn't grabbing. But this Plasti Dip's just a spray on plastic for the most part. And there's a piece I didn't do yet, but it's going on pretty well. So I'm just going to run with this and see what happens. So try Plasti Dip. Maybe that'll work better than just regular spray paint.